Hello everybody. So this is a response video about dejuanp's recent video called The Double Standard. Guys love it. So the impetus for the video, just to give you a little bit of context, is dejuanp had been watching the Kim Kardashian sex video, which I have not seen and don't particularly care to see. But the thing that was interesting, or I should say disturbing to me, was the comment about her being a stanky, dirty, you-know-what, i.e. hoe, and that continued on into a discussion about why it is more acceptable for men to have multiple sexual partners, while if women do the same thing, they are hoes, or they get labeled as a hoe, because they're doing something that they are quote-unquote not supposed to do. First of all, and the reason why men are justified in having more sexual partners is because they have to work to get laid. That because they have to put in the effort of, whining and dining a woman, that they, deserve the right to have this conquest, to, amass this, to be promiscuous because it's a challenge, whereas women can have whatever man they want, and therefore, because it's in ample supply, that they should be more, that men have more of a right because they have to pay for it, they have to work to get it, while women have easy access to sex. There are so many things wrong with that statement for me. First of all, let's talk about consequences of this line of thought. For me, and not to imply anything about dejuanp's own personal mentality, I think it is clear that he is a very responsible man, but that line of thought, for me, is connected to the breakdown of the black family. Meaning that when men feel like they have this right to conquest, that they can just go from, woman to woman to woman because it's a challenge, to me, doesn't that seem to also explain this dysfunctional single-parent household that we see all too often, of men who hit it and quit it and left a baby in the wake. Now, this is not to say I'm not absolving any person in this, either person of responsibility, but just because you had to work to have sex doesn't mean you have the right to have it, or to have as much of it as you think you should have. Number one. Number two, how can anyone tell somebody else how much sex they're supposed to have? I'm sorry, but when you start dictating what someone else does with their own body, you have crossed the line. There is something seriously wrong with this concept that somehow, because women are blank, that they have to be somehow more chaste, somehow less promiscuous than men. This is the kind of sexist ideology that has created the social divisions that we have today in American society. It is a mindset that makes the position of women as fragile, the position of women as something that needs to be purity needs to be maintained, whereas men have this right to conquest, whether it is on the level of politics, on the level of natural resources, and even on the level of the sexual mores of women in their lives and in their community. And as long as we continue to allow these trains of thought, we're going to continue to see problems not only in male-female relationships throughout society, let alone in the African American community, but generations of women who have a rather warped sense of their own sexuality. And it is something that I guard for some man to come along and I give it to him. Because he deserves it. Because he worked hard for it. I had a daughter. I would not want my daughter to grow up in that society with that kind of mindset. And I am disappointed to see someone that I respect say things of such a highly sexist nature. As much as I know it's not his intent to be offensive, it is not necessarily offensive, but disturbing and saddening to me to see people of otherwise respectful dispositions hold such, in my opinion, deeply antiquated ideologies. I don't really mean this to be putting someone on blast, but it just hits me so deeply and saddens me so deeply. Someone who, a few videos ago just made a wonderful video about, homophobia on YouTube. Like, it's just like, I don't get it. I don't understand where this is coming from. And for me, this is the kind of ideology that women, since writers like Lorraine Hansberry since the 1950s in A Raisin in the Sun have been fighting against. This ideology of male conquest and male superiority. And alright, I'm gonna let y'all go, but I'll be back with some more videos about gender, race, and to end with one of my favorite lines from a piece that I just did some work on. And this is for colored girls who have considered suicide. They've moved to the ends of their own window.